all of a sudden, I was unemployed. I remember thinking, well, I've still got a few dollars in my pocket, so I'll have one last big fling in LA. Then I'll go back to England and work on a building site or something. The first thing I did was check myself into a place called Le Park Hotel in West Hollywood, paid for by Don Arden's company, Jet Records. I just wanted to shut everything out, make everything go away. So I hid in Le Park and drank. Then one day, this drummer called Martin O'Seif knocked on my door. He told me that Sharon from Jet Records was coming over to pick something up from him, but that he had to leave town for a gig. Then he handed me an envelope. As soon as I closed the door, I got a knife and opened it. Inside was $500 in cash. I just called up my dealer and bought $500 worth of coke. A few hours later, Sharon came over and asked if I had something to give her. No, I don't think so, I said, all innocent. There was a massive bag of coke on the table next to a ripped-up envelope with Sharon written on it. Sharon gave me a monumental bollocking when she saw it, shouting and cursing and telling me I was a fucking disaster. I guess I won't be shagging her any time soon then, I thought. But she came back the next day to find me lying in a puddle of my own piss, smoking a joint. Look, she said, if you want to get your shit together, we want to manage you. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't. At first, Don wanted me to start a band called Son of Sabbath, which I thought was a horrendous idea. But then Sharon started to take more control, and we decided that I should make a proper solo album. I wanted to call it Blizzard of Oz, and little by little, things started to come together. I'd never met anyone who could sort things out like Sharon could. As a manager, you always knew exactly where you stood with her.
It's not.
9 o'clock in the morning.
9 o'clock in the morning.
Who in their right mind wakes up at 9
Of course,
o'clock in the morning?
before I could make an album and go on tour, I needed a band. Sharon helped me out, taking me to see all these young up-and-coming LA guitarists. Then a friend of mine, Dana Strom, said to me, look, Ozzy, there's one guy you really have to see. Randy Rhoads plays with a band called Quiet Riot, and he's red hot. So one night, this tiny American bloke came over to the park to introduce himself. He had this weirdly deep voice, and he was so thin he was almost not there. I remember him plugging his Gibson Les Paul into a little practice amp, and then he started doing these finger exercises. I had to say to him, stop, Randy, just stop right there. What's wrong? You're hired. You should have heard him play, man. I almost cried, he was so good. Soon we were flying back to England for rehearsals. The first thing we wrote was Goodbye to Romance. I was just walking around the house one day singing this melody that had been in my head for months, and Randy asked, is that your song or a Beatles song? I said, oh no, it's nothing, just this thing I've got stuck in my head. But he made me sit down with him until we'd worked it out. It was the first time I'd ever felt like I was an equal partner when it came to songwriting. Another vivid memory of working with Randy was when we wrote Suicide Solution. We were at a party for a band called Wild Horses at John Henry's, a rehearsal studio in London. Randy was sitting in a corner experimenting with riffs on his Flying V. And all of a sudden he just went, da-da-da-da, da-da-da. I shouted over, whoa, Randy, what was that? He just shrugged. I told him to play what he'd just played. Then I started to sing this lyric out in my head for a while. Wine is fine, but whiskey's quicker. Suicide is slow with liquor. And that was it. Most of the song was written right there. The night ended with everyone on stage jamming. Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy was there. Great fucking performer. Great voice, great style. But the old heroin got him in the end. One thing Sharon's brother managed to get done when we were in England was find us a bass player. Bob Daisley, an Aussie bloke, who'd been signed to Jet with a band called Widowmaker. I liked Bob immediately. Getting a drummer wasn't so easy. We seemed to audition half of Britain before we finally came across Lee Kerslake, who'd played with Uriah Heep. Another early member of our lineup was a keyboard player from Ipswich called Lindsay Bridgewater. He was a very educated boy, was Lindsay, and he'd never met the likes of us before. I told him, while you're playing, I want you to growl at the audience. The poor bloke didn't last long. I'd be talking out of my arse if I said I didn't feel like I was in competition with Black Sabbath when we made Blizzard of Oz. Part of me was shitting myself that they were going to be more successful without me, and their first album with Dio was pretty good. It went to number 9 in Britain and number 28 in America. But by the time we got Blizzard in the can at Ridge Farm Studios in Surrey, I knew we had a cracking album of our own. And it was magic to be in control, like I'd finally pulled something off. As soon as the radio stations got hold of Crazy Train, the thing just exploded. When the album came out in Britain in September 1980, it went to number 7 in the album charts. When it came out in America 6 months later, it peaked at number 21, but it eventually sold 4 million copies, making it one of Billboard's top 100 best-selling albums of the decade. A few nights before the tour started, I got Sharon in the sack for the first time. It had taken fucking long enough. I fell for Sharon so badly, man. The thing is, before I met her, I'd never come across a girl who was like me. I mean, when me and Sharon went out, people used to think we were brother and sister. We were so similar. Wherever we went, we were always the drunkest and the loudest. We got up to some crazy shit in those early days. One night in Germany, we went to a big dinner with the head of CBS Europe, who were releasing Blizzard of Oz over there. He was a big bearded cigar-chomping bloke, and very straight. I was out of my fucking clock, of course. So we're all sitting there at this huge table, and halfway through the meal I get the idea to climb on the table and start doing a striptease. Everyone thinks it's funny for a while, but I end up stark bollock naked, take a piss in the CBS guy's carafe of wine, kneel down in front of him and kiss him on the lips. They didn't think that was very funny. We didn't get a record played in Germany for years afterwards.
I'm a certified schizophrenic. I'm a certified schizophrenic. I'm a certified schizophrenic. I'm insane. I'm insane. I'm a certified